This is Dirk and his horse Wesson. They are going to help us discuss how to tell if a driving horse is ready to plow, and to show how we started the process of bringing a driving horse back into work after an extended period off. Wesson has done quite a bit of driving, mostly pulling a cart and various drags. But as you can see, Wesson had some trouble being harnessed. He seemed rather out of practice and a bit worried, which was especially clear since he wasn't able to stand still at first when the harness was put on. Back in 2020, we taught Wesson to plow single, and I don't think he has pulled the plow since then. We have been building our barn since then, and more recently started our new family, and Wesson has had very little driving in several years. With the arrival of spring, it was time to plow the garden, and since I am focused on taking care of our baby, I asked Dirk if he would try plowing with Wesson again, so he could be the main person working the horse and leaving me to just be an assistant. When working a horse, we look for green, yellow, and red lights, which just means we are listening for the horse's signals, telling us if they are okay to keep moving forward, or need to repeat a lesson, or need to retreat into something easier. Here Dirk's checking to see that Wesson is feeling okay after he's put the harness on. Putting the harness on was a little bit hard, and now he's just making sure that Wesson's okay with wearing it. You can see Wesson's movements are pretty steady. He seems okay wearing the harness now. Dirk's put on the bridle and the lines, all of that's gone well, and he's asked Wesson to move off. After doing a little ground driving, Dirk's ready to hook Wesson to the evener. Wesson's having some trouble standing still. Ideally, Wesson would be standing nicely still, and that would be a good green light to continue. But since he's having trouble standing still, Dirk's kind of getting a yellow light from him, meaning that he's okay, but he's a little bit anxious with what we're doing. He's not totally comfortable with it yet. Dirk's able to work with him and kind of get the job done, but they haven't really gotten a nice green light yet. Now that Dirk's ready to pull something with Wesson, they start with something familiar and they just pull a log. Wesson's pulled lots of logs and drags, so this is a good first task for him. We're getting started plowing, and Wesson had some trouble standing still before he was asked to go. And now that he's asked to go, he's moving off, but he's kind of moving side to side. He hasn't figured out to just pull straight ahead. The plow popped out of the ground, and so I've asked Dirk to take Wesson around in a circle so we can start plowing again and not have a section where there's no, where the furrow hasn't been turned. Sometimes people will back a horse up and pull the plow backward, but if the horse is needing to move forward like Wesson is, he wants to move forward, that's not always a good practice. Plowing can be a pretty hard task for an inexperienced horse if they aren't fully ready for it. That's because the plowing job requires driving very precisely. The horse needs to walk really straight, and they need to pull at an even and slowish pace. In our garden, there's different sections, like we're plowing a new section that has some sod in it and some area that had manure over the winter spread, so it's real soft. So there's a lot of grass roots and soft and hard spots that makes the pulling uneven. As the assistant, it's my job to try and keep since I'm running the plow, it's my job to try and keep that draft and the pull on the horse as even as I can. So sometimes I'll cause the plow to come up out of the ground just a little bit so it's an easier pull, or maneuver it side to side to help straighten things out even if the horse isn't going as straight. And then if the horse ever backs up, it's my job to hold the plow back and keep the horse from getting tangled up in the eveners. So here we've done one run that went okay. It wasn't the best, but now we're getting started on the second run, and Wesson's wanting to go forward, but I can't remember exactly what was going on, but Dirk wasn't letting him start going forward right away. Maybe he wanted him to stand still. And so Wesson started going side to side. So he keeps kind of running into boundaries of don't go to this side, don't go to that side. And so he's having trouble finding what he can do. It's important that the horse finds, like there you can see he's pawing because he's got all this energy, all this motion that he wants to do, and he's feeling blocked. And so the energy is coming out as a paw because he doesn't know where he can go. And so it's important for us to help him find freely forward, especially in the driving situation. The horse needs to feel free to go forward. And that will help them not have these other behaviors that come out, such as the pawing, or sometimes you'll see a horse that gets really mouthy. Maybe they're chewing on the bit, or they're prancing in place. Those are signs that the horse feels like it needs to move forward and it's feeling blocked. So since we were starting to get some of those signals from Wesson, I suggested to Dirk that we just lay the plow over on its side, forget about trying to plow, and just get Wesson moving forward, so he can be successful and find that forward motion, and that will help him relax. Another challenge with plowing with an inexperienced horse, especially for a horse that's plowing single, so by itself, when we're opening the new ground, there's a couple passes when the horse needs to walk on the place it had just plowed, that ribbon of ground that is just turned over, so that we don't get a big section where there's not been any plowing. And walking on that ground makes for very rough, uneven footing. It's kind of hard to walk on. And so it's the horse's natural tendency to want to avoid walking on that. So that's just one more thing that makes it hard for him to want to walk where he's supposed to go. So it takes some training to teach the horse to go straight, and also to stay right next to the furrow, or walk on the plowed ground if it's on one of those beginning passes. So here we are going back down the hill, helping Wesson plow again. The plow popped out of the ground because we hit a spot where that happened, and then Wesson started to trot because all of a sudden there was very little draft. It's kind of a hard plowing area because it's sod and there's different grass clumps. So since Wesson's having some trouble plowing, it's not just one issue, but there's a few different issues that we're having. I suggest to Dirk that we unhook the plow and just practice those isolated components. So now Dirk's just ground driving Wesson, and they're practicing walking in a straight line in the spot that he's supposed to walk. And you can already see that Wesson's whole demeanor has changed. He's able to walk much straighter. He's in the correct location. He's relaxed. His head's lowering. At times they stop and he's able to stand still and wait. And his whole body's moving at a much smoother, more cadenced rhythm, rather than that jerky, erratic movement that he had before and when he was trying to go side to side. See here, Dirk's asked him to stop and he's standing very nicely. Again, they practice walking, going in a straight line, and asking Wesson to walk next to the furrow. Again, Wesson stopped and standing really nicely. He's patiently waiting for Dirk's next instruction. Things are going quite well, and so Dirk decides to hook onto the plow and pull it to our staging area where we keep things out of the way. So here Dirk starts to ask Wesson to side pass to get in position next to the plow. He's kind of asked Wesson's head to come over, and then he put the rein around Wesson's rump to help guide his rump over. And Wesson's having a little trouble. He's kind of trying different things there. He's started to figure it out. And you can see that he got a little anxious. He started chewing on the bit a little bit, but then he was able to quickly relax, so it wasn't too far outside of his comfort zone. So they've hooked up to the plow and they're just pulling it to our little out of the way area. And Wesson's doing really good pulling the plow. So now Dirk's hooked Wesson up to the drag. This is a drag Wesson's pulled many times. He's quite comfortable and familiar with pulling this drag. They're practicing so that Wesson can have a good, positive experience with getting back into driving. And dragging the pasture is a pretty imprecise job. It doesn't really matter where they're going. They're just smoothing out the lumps in the pasture. There's also a lot of forward movement. There's not a lot of sharp turns and stopping and waiting and positioning the plow. So this is a good task for Wesson to relax into. So even though we didn't complete our plowing goal with Wesson this session, I still wanted to show you this footage because it shows how to tell if a horse is ready to plow or not and some of the steps you can take to get it ready. Wesson told us he was feeling anxious and that he needed more review before he was ready to go back to plowing. To help him out, we broke things down, backed up, and found where he could be successful and built all those pieces separately before combining them into the complete plowing task. Since the plow was still needing to be done, I got out our reliable and experienced plowing horse Hidalgo, and she did a great job helping us get the garden ready for planting.